The 1990s produced the most visceral, most dangerous, and most electrically alive motorcycles the industry has ever manufactured. No ride-by-wire, no traction control, no electronic safety nets, just raw combustion, paper-thin chassis geometry, and engines that wanted to kill you the moment you lost concentration. After 2 decades of riding and obsessing over this specific era of machine, I am counting down 14 superbikes from the 1990s that came within a razor's edge of absolute perfection. Purpose-built, track-derived superbikes that the industry has spent 30 years trying to replicate and failing. The machine, at number 1, has never been fully bettered, not even today. Number 14, the Ducati 916. When this motorcycle appeared on every European magazine cover in 1994, the entire industry went silent. Massimo Tamburini had drawn a machine so visually perfect that rival engineers openly admitted it had redefined what a superbike was allowed to look like. 90-degree L-twin, 916 cubic centimeters, desmodromic valve actuation, 114 horsepower at 9,500 RPM, 6-speed transmission, dry single-plate clutch, chain final drive. The 916 won the World Superbike Championship 4 consecutive times. Carl Fogarty did not ride it to victory politely, he dominated with it. The steel trellis frame, single-sided swing arm, and underseat exhaust routing were structural and aesthetic solutions simultaneously. No motorcycle has ever closed the gap between race machine and road machine so completely. An aggressive, committed crouch, low, wide clip-ons lock the upper body into a full aerodynamic tuck. High rear set foot pegs load weight onto the wrist at city speeds. Casual riders find it exhausting within 30 minutes. Skilled riders find it transcendent. $12,500 new in 1994. $5,000 to $14,000 on the used market today. Low mileage originals are appreciating assets. Desmodromic valve service every 12,000 miles costs over $1,000 in labor. The L-twin generates catastrophic heat on the right leg in traffic. The 4.8-gallon tank forces a fuel stop every 110 miles under spirited riding. The 916 redefined beauty and backed it with championships. But the next machine rewrote the definition of inline-4 performance so completely, its engine architecture is still studied in engineering programs today. Number 13, the Honda CBR 900R Fireblade SC28. In 1992, Honda engineer Tadao Baba broke the fundamental rule of motorcycle physics that more power requires more weight. He designed a 900 that weighed the same as a 600. The motorcycle world stopped arguing and started copying. A liquid-cooled inline-4, 893 cubic centimeters, 122 horsepower, twin-spar aluminum frame, 185 kilograms wet. Competing 900 of that era weighed over 220 kilograms. The SC28 introduced total system weight management to the superbike class. Baba obsessed over eliminating mass from every component simultaneously. Thinner castings, shorter headers, compact instrumentation. The result changed direction with a thought. Every sport bike manufacturer today is building a philosophical descendant of the SC28. Surprisingly neutral for a 1992 superbike. Clip-ons sit higher and wider than the 916, creating an aggressive but not punishing posture. Suits riders between 5'6" and 6 feet well. Long-distance riding beyond 200 miles becomes uncomfortable on the thin stock seat. $8,900 new in 1992. $3,500 to $8,000 used today. Clean early examples are becoming collectible. The razor-sharp steering geometry that made it revolutionary also makes it nervous above 140 miles per hour. The carburation is sensitive to altitude changes. The non-adjustable front forks collapse under repeated heavy braking on track days. The Fireblade taught the world about lightweight philosophy. The next machine delivered a full factory Grand Prix engine in a road-legal chassis and somehow convinced regulators to let it happen. Number 12, the Honda RC45. Honda built the RC45 for one reason: to meet world superbike homologation requirements. They were required to produce 200 units. They built 749. Each assembled by a single technician from start to finish. Each one was a rolling engineering thesis. Liquid-cooled V4, 748 cubic centimeters, fuel injection, radical technology for a 1994 production road motorcycle, 120 horsepower in street trim, titanium connecting rods, magnesium engine cover, pneumatically controlled exhaust power valve, borrowed directly from Honda's Formula One program. The gear-driven primary drive produced a distinctive mechanical whine engineers tried to eliminate for years. They eventually stopped trying because owners requested it. Every road version was a lightly disguised race machine wearing mirrors and a headlight. A committed racing posture, low clip-ons, high foot pegs, a long, narrow fuel tank requiring firm knee grip during aggressive cornering. The seat communicates road surface directly through the rider's anatomy. It is an instrument, not a comfort device. $15,500 new in 1994, nearly double the CBR 900RR in the same showroom. $18,000 to $45,000 used today and rising. Low mileage original examples are investment grade. Early PGMFI fuel injection is nearly impossible to modify without factory diagnostic equipment. Titanium connecting rods require mandatory replacement at 60,000 kilometers regardless of condition, a service that costs several $1,000s. The RC45 is a museum piece that rides like a race weapon. The next machine was also built for racetracks and reluctantly registered for public roads. Number 11, the Kawasaki Ninja ZX7R. Kawasaki built the ZX7R as a homologation special, and unlike manufacturers who met the requirement with maximum compromise, Kawasaki committed fully. Dealers who understood what they were selling kept them for themselves. Liquid-cooled inline-4, 748 cubic centimeters, ram air forced induction through the headstock, 108 horsepower at 11,500 revolutions per minute, fully adjustable Kayaba suspension, front and rear. Components that rivaled purpose-built racing hardware of that period. Scott Russell used it to deliver Kawasaki's first World Superbike Championship victory. The ram air induction added measurable power the faster you rode it. At the track, a well-set-up 7R was competitive against machines costing 3 times its price. Firm and committed sport position with mid-height clip-ons, marginally more comfortable than pure race geometry. The tank shape provides excellent knee grip for body steering. City commuting is tolerable in short bursts. $9,900 new in 1996. $2,500 to $6,000 used today. Extraordinary value for the engineering delivered. Cleaning or modifying the airbox incorrectly destroys the ram air pressure differential and reduces power. The close ratio gearbox that excels on track demands constant gear changes on public roads. Hard riding drops fuel consumption to a punishing 30 miles per gallon. The ZX7R was built for racetracks and reluctantly registered for roads. The next machine was built for both simultaneously and found perfection in neither, which somehow made it more interesting than either alone. Number 10, the Suzuki GSXR750 W/T. Suzuki looked at the Fireblade, made a painful institutional decision, and stripped the GSXR lineage back to its founding principle. The result was arguably the purest GSXR ever manufactured. Liquid-cooled inline-4, 749 cubic centimeters, 105 horsepower at 10,800 RPM. Twin-spar aluminum frame, 179 kilograms wet, 12 kilograms lighter than the previous generation. The W/T generation restored maximum performance per kilogram of motorcycle. Road testers universally praised its transparency, the sensation that the motorcycle communicated exactly what the tires were doing at every fraction of the contact patch. That level of feedback is rare in any era of engineering. Sport-focused without crossing into pure racing aggression. Moderate clip-on height, a narrow supportive seat, and a natural knee bend for average stature riders. Two-up riding is technically possible and deeply impractical. $8,200 new in 1992. $2,000 to $5,000 used today. Unmolested original examples command a significant premium in a market dominated by heavily modified machines. The standard wet clutch will lock the rear wheel during aggressive downshifting if technique is imprecise. Carburation is sensitive to temperature. Cold morning starts require a disciplined warm-up, or the engine stumbles badly on initial acceleration. The GSXR750 W/T restored purity to a confused lineage. The machine that comes next never confused itself about what it was for a single moment of its production life. Number 9, the Yamaha YZF-750R. The YZF-75 OR is the forgotten masterpiece of the 1990s Superbike wars. It never received the championship victories. It never became the poster child of its generation. It simply worked at every speed, in every condition, with a consistency that made rival manufacturers uncomfortable. Liquid-cooled inline-4, 749 cubic centimeters, 105 horsepower at 11,000 RPM, titanium exhaust as standard equipment, fully adjustable Kayaba suspension, aluminum delta box frame derived from Yamaha's YZF-R1 GP racing program, GP architecture, titanium hardware, and chassis geometry refined from factory Grand Prix racing, delivered as standard road equipment. The delta box frame gave it a rigidity to weight ratio that made its handling precision feel almost electronic in its accuracy. Middle ground between track aggression and road usability, achieved with more success than almost any contemporary competitor. Clip-ons set at the optimal balance of efficiency and endurance. The seat is wider than the GSXR750 and significantly more comfortable beyond 100 miles. $9,500 new in 1993, $2,500 to $6,000 used today. Titanium exhaust originals significantly increased collectible value. Conservative styling was its fatal commercial wound. Buyers chose the 9/16's drama over the YZF's balance. Finding an unmodified original today is difficult because previous owners frequently upgraded the aesthetics. Carburetor synchronization requires precision balancing every 10,000 miles, or a flat spot develops between 6 and 8,000 RPM. The YZF-750R delivered GP architecture on public roads. The next machine delivered a full hyperbike engine in a touring chassis and made 178 miles per hour feel civilized. We are halfway through the greatest decade of superbike production in history. Which of these machines has lived in your garage? Which one terrified you in the best possible way? Drop your story in the comments, because the next 7 entries are where the decade got truly extraordinary. Number 8, the Honda CBR 1100XX Super Blackbird. When it launched in 1996, the Super Blackbird was the fastest production motorcycle on Earth, not the fastest superbike. The fastest motorcycle humanity had ever been permitted to purchase at a dealership. It held that distinction for 3 years, while carrying full touring equipment and a comfortable riding position. Liquid-cooled inline-4, 1,137 cubic centimeters, 164 horsepower at 10,500 RPM. Aerodynamic bodywork developed in Honda's wind tunnel using the same methodology as their Formula One cars. Top speed, 178 miles per hour. Fuel capacity, 23 liters. Simultaneously, the world's fastest production motorcycle and a machine you could ride for 8 hours without requiring spinal surgery. Long travel suspension, a broad supportive seat, and an enormous fuel tank eliminated fuel anxiety entirely. A hyperbike disguised as a sport tourer that fooled everyone, including speed trap cameras. Designed for all-day comfort at extreme speeds. The upright leaning forward position is the ergonomic sweet spot between aerodynamic efficiency and physical sustainability. Riders of all heights report minimal fatigue on sub-4-hour journeys. $10,500 new in 1996, $3,000 to $7,000 used today. Well-maintained high-mileage examples represent extraordinary value. The aerodynamic fairing creates significant front-end lift at extreme velocities if the rider adopts a non-optimal position. The dry weight of 193 kilograms makes slow-speed parking lot maneuvers demanding for shorter inseam riders. The Blackbird conquered the speed record and kept you comfortable doing it. The next machine had zero interest in your comfort and every interest in destroying lap records. Number 7, the Suzuki GSXR 1100 W. The GSXR 1100 W is the last truly massive, truly brutal large-bore GSXR built before Suzuki pivoted to the more manageable 1,000 cubic centimeter format. This motorcycle produced power that 1990s chassis technology could barely contain. That spectacular mismatch produced a riding experience nothing built since has replicated. Liquid-cooled inline-4, 1,074 cubic centimeters, 155 horsepower at 10,000 RPM. Twin-spar aluminum frame, 209 kilograms wet. Heavier than the Fireblade by 24 kilograms, but producing 33 more horsepower. Rolling the throttle on in third gear at 60 miles per hour produced an acceleration event so violent that unprepared riders reported losing peripheral vision momentarily. It was not refined, it was not forgiving, it was magnificent. The last motorcycle built on the pure philosophy that raw engine performance was the only metric that mattered. Slightly more upright than the 750 variant, providing leverage to manage enormous power. Wide handlebars allow the rider to brace effectively against acceleration forces. Passengers exposed to full throttle openings reportedly required several minutes of recovery afterward. $9,800 new in 1993. $2,500 to $6,000 used today. Most surviving examples have been significantly modified. Originality commands a major premium. The front suspension is overwhelmed under the braking forces generated from the machine's achievable top speeds. Upgrading the fork internals is considered mandatory by anyone using the machine near its performance envelope. Fuel range under hard riding is less than 150 kilometers. The GSXR 1100 was raw power with a thin veneer of road legality. The next machine had that same power and a world superbike pedigree that makes the GSXR look like a commuter. Number 6. The Ducati 748. The 748 is the most underrated motorcycle on this entire list. It lives in the permanent shadow of the 916, overlooked by collectors wanting the bigger badge. Both groups are catastrophically wrong. In the precise opinion of everyone who has ridden both machines back-to-back, the 748 is the better road motorcycle of the two. 90-degree L-twin, 748 cubic centimeters, desmodromic valve actuation, 95 horsepower at 11,000 RPM. The identical trellis frame and single-sided swing arm of the 916. Chassis engineering completely shared. Lighter than the 916 and producing its power higher in the rev range, the 748's power-to-chassis balance is more harmonious on challenging roads where outright top speed is irrelevant. A desmodromic L-twin at 11,000 RPM approaching a corner apex is not a mechanical event. It is a musical event. Identical to the 916 in every critical dimension. Committed crouch, high foot pegs, low clip-ons. Because the 748 feels lighter and more agile, the aggressive posture feels appropriate rather than merely demanding. $10,900 new in 1995. $4,000 to $11,000 used today and appreciating as its reputation is progressively rehabilitated by the collector market. Desmodromic service every 12,000 miles at significant labor cost. Identical to the 916. The original Showa rear shock fades rapidly under track use, requiring aftermarket replacement for serious riding. Early carbureted models suffer inconsistent throttle response during rapid transitions from closed to wide open position. The 748 is the 916's better-kept secret. The next machine kept no secrets. It announced its intentions with the most terrifying intake roar in 1990's Superbike production. Number 5. The Kawasaki Ninja ZX9R B1/B2. Critics in 1994 called the ZX9RB unfocused. Too fast for beginners, too heavy for track, too aggressive for touring. 30 years later, those same critics are paying serious money to own one. It turns out that exactly between categories is where the most satisfying motorcycles on Earth are built. Liquid-cooled inline-4, 899 cubic centimeters, ram air induction, 138 horsepower at 11,000 RPM, fully adjustable 43mm Kayaba inverted forks. Enormous fork diameter for a 1994 production machine. The ZX9RB was the first time Kawasaki successfully merged hyperbike power with near superbike agility. The engine produced usable torque from 4,000 RPM, making it more tractable than any contemporary high-performance inline-4. That tractability made it faster on real roads than machines producing similar peak power through a narrower rev range. Forward-leaning sport posture, less extreme than the ZX7R, more committed than a sport tourer. Genuine comfort for the first 3 hours of highway riding. Wide tank knee cutouts allow effective body steering throughout. $9,300 new in 1994. $2,000 to $5,000 used today. B generation originals in unmodified condition are increasingly rare. The chassis is too flexible at the absolute limit. Maximum effort cornering on track produces lateral chassis flex, creating unpredictable mid-corner behavior. Kawasaki addressed this through the B1 and B2 revisions, but never fully eliminated it. The rear shock is underdamped for the available power and requires replacement for track use. The ZX9R found perfection in the space between categories. The next machine decided categories were irrelevant and simply built the fastest road motorcycle its engineers could imagine. Number 4, The Yamaha YZF-R1, first generation. The 1998 R1 divided the decade into two eras. Everything before it was the pre-R1 era. Everything after was post-R1. Yamaha had absorbed the Fireblade's lessons completely and exceeded them, producing a 1000 that weighed less than most contemporary 750s. The industry did not respond. The industry panicked. Liquid-cooled inline-4, 998 cubic centimeters, stacked gearbox design with transmission shafts arranged vertically rather than horizontally, dramatically shortening engine length and centralizing mass. 150 horsepower at 10,000 RPM, 177 kilograms wet, wheelbase shorter than many contemporary 600s. Every road test published in 1998 read like the tester had experienced a spiritual awakening. Cycle World, Motorcycle News, Bike Magazine, every major publication, every tester. The same unanimous conclusion. Motorcycle engineering had just taken its biggest single leap in 30 years. Uncompromising race posture, low forward clip-ons, high rear set foot pegs, a narrow firm seat. Your wrists will ache after 2 hours unless your core strength is exceptional. What the ergonomics deliver in exchange is a level of rider motorcycle unity that makes every other superbike feel approximate. $10,999 new in 1998, $3,500 to $8,000 used today. First-year examples in original condition are highly sought by collectors. Extreme mass centralization, short wheelbase, and 150 horsepower combine to create an enthusiastic tendency toward front-wheel lift in the first 3 gears. Without modern traction control, managing this requires constant throttle discipline. The stacked gearbox produced a neutral-finding characteristic many riders found elusive under race conditions. The first-generation R1 ended one era and began another. The machine at number 3 never ended any era. It simply refused to end, continuing to earn respect that has never diminished by a single degree. Number 3, the Honda CBR 600F3. Every superbike conversation is dominated by leader-class machines and exotic V-twins. The CBR 600F3 arrives at number 3 to make 1 point. The greatest superbike in any decade is the one that makes the largest number of skilled riders fastest, most consistently, in the greatest number of conditions. By that definition, the one that actually matters, the F3 is one of the greatest superbikes the 1990s produced. Liquid-cooled inline-4, 599 cubic centimeters, 105 horsepower at 12,000 RPM. Fully adjustable 41mm cartridge fork and ProLink rear monoshock on the sport variant, 163 kilograms wet. The CBR 600F3 dominated the AMA Supersport Championship for 3 consecutive years. It was faster around racetracks than many leader-class machines because it allowed skilled riders to carry corner speed the heavier machines physically could not match. Its influence on every modern 600 superbike design is total and direct. The most naturally comfortable superbike riding position of its era. Clip-ons set at Honda's optimal balance between aerodynamic efficiency and physical endurance. 810mm seat height accessible for average stature riders. Touring distances of 300 miles are achievable without significant discomfort. $7,999 new in 1995. $2,000 to $4,500 used today with consistent market demand. 4 34mm K-Hin carburetors require synchronization every 15,000 miles. Falling out of sync produces a pronounced vibration between 4,000 and 6,000 RPM that becomes exhausting on long rides. The standard exhaust system is heavy. Aftermarket slip-ons remove over 3 kilograms and are considered essential by the track day community. The F3 taught a generation to ride. The machine at number 2 was designed for a generation that already knew and wanted to discover what happened when you removed every remaining limitation. Number 2, the Triumph T595. Daytona. In 1997, Triumph committed a magnificent act of corporate courage. They proposed building a superbike from scratch on zero race heritage, going head-to-head against Ducati, Honda, and Yamaha. Management approved it. The result was extraordinary. Liquid-cooled inline triple, 955 cubic centimeters, not 595 as the name falsely implied, a marketing decision. Triumph corrected with the 955 80C designation. 128 horsepower at 10,200 RPM. Cast aluminum beam frame, 45mm Showa, inverted fork, fully adjustable Showa rear shock. The inline triple combines low-end torque, breath of a twin, with the high revolution capability of a 4. Muscular and frantic simultaneously, the Daytona sounds unlike any other superbike ever manufactured. It cornered with precision, matching the best Japanese machines of its era. It was proof that Britain could compete at the absolute global standard of motorcycle engineering. Deliberately modeled on the Ducati 916, committed, focused, demanding. Where the Daytona separates itself is heat management. The inline triple's thermal output is significantly lower than the Ducati L-Twin, making traffic riding considerably more tolerable. $11,999 new in 1997, $3,500 to $8,000 used today. Early T595 examples with original components and full service history are increasingly collectible. Early T595 models suffered severe fuel injection, flat spot hesitation between 4 and 6,000 RPM under partial throttle. Triumph issued a software revision that improved but never fully eliminated the issue. Finding a T595 with the updated ECU mapping is essential before purchase. The cast aluminum frame proved less torsionally rigid than Japanese twin-spar competition, allowing chassis flex under maximum effort cornering. Triumph proved itself with the Daytona, but the machine at number 1 proved something even larger, that when a Japanese manufacturer operates at full creative freedom, unlimited budget, and zero commercial compromise, they can produce a motorcycle so close to perfection that the industry spent 25 years measuring everything else against it. Number 1, the Honda RC30 The RC30 was manufactured before the 1990s officially began, but its production run extended into the decade, and its absolute dominance of world superbike racing throughout the period earns it permanent residency on this list. More critically, it earns number 1 because no other motorcycle of this era has aged so gracefully, appreciated so consistently, or maintained its status as the definitive statement of what engineering achieves when perfection is the only acceptable outcome. Liquid-cooled V4, 748 cubic centimeters, gear-driven cams borrowed from Honda's Formula One engine program, 112 horsepower at 11,500 revolutions per minute. Billet aluminum single-sided swing arm, twin-spar aluminum frame, fully adjustable suspension. Each unit bears a build number plate on the top yoke. Honda were required to produce a minimum of 200 road-legal examples for homologation. They built approximately 3,000. The RC30 won the World Superbike Championship in 1988, 89, and 1990, while simultaneously dominating Formula One motorcycle racing. Every road version was a factory race machine wearing the absolute minimum road-legal equipment the law required. Each was assembled individually by a single technician from start to finish. The gear-driven cam whine that engineers tried to silence became the sound owners demanded. Pure racing position, low, narrow, uncompromising clip-ons. High rear set foot pegs making any distance beyond 45 minutes physically demanding. The narrow, firm seat communicates every road surface texture directly through the rider's anatomy with zero filtering. Honda built the RC30 for a rider who wants total information, not comfortable isolation. $15,000 new in 1988. $30,000 to $80,000 used today for original unmodified examples. The RC30 has appreciated continuously for 3 decades and shows zero signs of reversal. Gear-driven cam systems require specialist knowledge to inspect and adjust. Genuine RC30 replacement parts are no longer in production. Sourcing requires specialist vendors, NOS stock hunting, or custom fabrication. A complete engine rebuild today can exceed the purchase price of many other superbikes on this list, and their riding position will end any tour beyond 200 miles with absolute physical authority. But none of that changes what the RC30 is. It is documented proof that when Honda's engineers were given full creative freedom, unlimited budget, and a single instruction, build the best motorcycle on earth, this is the machine they built. 35 years later, nobody has disagreed. Do you disagree with the ranking? Is there a machine from this decade I have criminally ignored? Leave your verdict in the comments below. Click the next video on your screen right now to uncover the machines from this era the industry quietly stopped talking about. Because the truth about what they cost and what they deliver is a conversation the new bike sales floor cannot survive. Stay fast, stay sharp, and I will catch you over there.